a tide. It is rising up deep inside a current that moves and makes you come alive. Living water that brings the dead to life. Whoa, we're going down to the river, down to the river, down to the river to pray. Let's get washed by the water, washed by the water, and rise up in amazing grace. Let's go down, down, down to the river. You will leave change. Let's go down, down, down to the river. Never the same. I've seen it move in my own life. Took me from dusty roads into paradise. All of my dirt, all of my shame, down in the streams that have made me born again. Like a tide, it is rising up deep inside a current that moves and makes you come alive. Living water that brings the dead to life. Whoa, we're going down to the river, down to the river, down to the river to pray. Let's get washed by the water, washed by the water, and rise up in amazing grace. Let's go down, down, down to the river. You will leave change. Let's go down, down, down to the river. Never the same. Let's go down. Let's go down.
Let's go down.
Let's go down. We're going down to the river, down to the river, down to the river to pray. Let's get washed by the water, washed by the water, and rise up in amazing grace. Let's go down, down, down to the river. You will leave change. Let's go down, down, down to the river. The same. Down. Gonna go down in amazing grace. Down, down to the river. Gonna go down in amazing grace.
Wide awake while the world is sound asleep, too afraid of what might show up while you're dreaming. Nobody sees you. Nobody would believe you. Every day you try to pick up all the pieces, all the memories, they somehow never leave you. Nobody sees you. Nobody would believe you. God only knows what you've been through, and God only knows what they say about you. God only knows how it's killing you, and there's a kind of love that God only knows. God only knows what you've been through, and God only knows what they say about you, and God only knows the real you, and there's a kind of love that God only knows. There's a kind of love that, there's a kind of love. You keep it cover over every single secret, so afraid if someone saw them they would be. But somebody sees you. Somebody will never leave you. God only knows what you've been through, and God only knows what they say about you. God only knows how it's killing you. But there's a kind of love that God only knows. God only knows what you've been through. God only knows what they say about you. God only knows the real you. And there's a kind of love that God only knows. There's a kind of love that, there's a kind of love. There's a kind of love that, there's a kind of love. For the lonely, for the ashamed, the misunderstood and the ones to blame. What if we could start over? We could start over. We could start over. Oh, for the lonely and for the ashamed, the misunderstood and the ones to blame. What if we could start over? We could start over. We could start over. 'Cause there's a kind of love that God only knows. God only knows what you've been through. And God only knows what they say about you. God only knows the real you. And there's a kind of love that God only knows. God only knows what you've been through. And God only knows what they say about you. And God only knows the real you. And there's a kind of love that God only knows. There's a kind of love that, there's a kind of love. God only knows. There's a kind of love that, there's a kind of love.
God only knows where to find you. God only knows how to break through. God only knows the real you. And there's a kind of love that God only knows.
Do you feel the world is broken? Do you feel the shadows deepen? But do you know that all the dark won't stop the light from getting through? Do you wish that you could see it all made new? Is all creation groaning? Is a new creation coming? Is the glory of the Lord to be the light within our midst? Is it good that we remind ourselves of this? Is anyone worthy? Is anyone whole? Is anyone able to break the seal and open the scroll? The Lion of Judah, who conquered the grave. He is David's root and the Lamb who died to ransom the slave. Is he worthy? Is he worthy of our blessing and honor and glory? Is he worthy of this? Does the Father truly love us? Does the Spirit move among us? And does Jesus, our Messiah, hold forever those he loves? Does our God intend to dwell?
Thank you again for joining us tonight. And as we We just have tonight and tomorrow night left in this week with our studies, and we have covered a lot of ground. And as usual, if you've not been able to watch live, you can watch later, and you can find these on our website, on our Facebook page, our YouTube page. Facebook, search Lufkin Central. YouTube, you can also search Lufkin Central. Our website, lufkincentral.com. You can find them there. If you are one of those who uses one of the streaming devices, a Roku, Fire Stick, Apple TV, Chromecast, all those things, you can search through the Boxcast app and search Lufkin Central. And you will find not just these, but every one of our videos that we've been putting out for the last few months, our Sunday worship services, our Wednesday night midweek services, and so you can find all those there. And when I say what a week we've had this week, we began on Monday night looking at sacrifice and atonement. Tuesday night, the holiness of God. Wednesday night, we had week 2 of a series that we're doing through the Hills, titled Always On. Taylor Walling, one of the teaching ministers of the Hills, it was Always in Reach, talking about being transformed. Think of Romans 12, 1 through 2. And then in the midst of that, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of our faith, Hebrews 12, 2. And then last night, we looked at the book of Leviticus, and about all the commands and everything that God gave Moses for the Israelites, right? And when God gives us something, it's for a purpose. It's not just, hey, here, try this out and see what you think. But there is a purpose, there is a reason behind all of it. And then last night we told you that, hey, remember, this is 2020, and what have we done this year? A census. Well, the book of Numbers begins with a census. It says, the Lord spoke to Moses. This is Numbers chapter 1, verse 1. The Lord spoke to Moses in the tent of meeting in the desert on Sinai on the first day of the second month, or of the second year after the Israelites came out of Egypt. He said, take a census of the whole Israelite community by their clans and family, listing every name one by one. And, you know, a lot of times we look at these names, we look at these lists, and we kind of get lost in trying to pronounce the names, but there's a reason we have it. We're going to explore that reason right after this time in worship.
No sweeter name than the name of Jesus. No sweeter name have I ever known. No sweeter name than the name of Jesus. No sweeter name than the name of Jesus. No sweeter name have I ever known. No sweeter name than the name of Jesus. You are the light to my heart and my soul. You are the light to the darkness around me. You are the hope to the hopeless and broken. You are the only truth and the way. No sweeter name than the name of Jesus. No sweeter name have I ever known. No sweeter name than the name of Jesus. No sweeter name than the name of Jesus. No sweeter name have I ever known. No sweeter name than the name of Jesus. You are the light to my heart and my soul. You are the light to the darkness around me. You are the hope to the hopeless and broken. You are the only truth and the way. You are the around me. You are the hope to the hopeless and broken. You are the only truth and the way. You are the light to my heart and my soul. You are the light to the darkness around me. You are the hope to the hopeless and broken. You are the only truth and the way. My life's in you, my strength's in you, my hope's in you, is in you. My life's in you, Lord, my strength's in you, is in you, Lord, my hope's in you, is in you, Lord, in you, is in you. My life's in you, Lord, my strength's in you, is in you, Lord, my hope's in you, is in you, Lord, in you, is in you. I will praise you with all of my life. I will praise you with all of my strength, with all of my life, with all of my strength. All of my hope is in you. My life's is in you, Lord. My strength is in you, Lord. My hope is in you, Lord. In you is in you. My life's is in you, Lord. My strength is in you, Lord. My hope is in you, Lord. In you is in you. I will praise you with all of my love.
All of my
Praise you with all of my strength, with all of my life, with all of my strength, all of my hope is in you. My life is in you, Lord. My strength is in you, Lord. My hope is in you, Lord. In you is in you. My life is in you, Lord. My strength is in you, Lord. My hope is in you, Lord. In you is in you. In you it's in you. In you it's in you. It's in you.
The book of Numbers gets overlooked, partly because it has a really boring name.
Which is a shame. In the Hebrew tradition, the book's name is Bamidbar, which means in the wilderness. And it's an epic travelogue about Israel's journey through the desert on their way to the land promised to Abraham.
Now, this pilgrimage should only take about 2 weeks on foot.
But instead, it takes them about 40 years.
That's crazy. It's practically half of someone's lifetime.
Yeah, it's a very long camping trip with lots of interesting stories, but let's remember it's most helpful to back up and start with how this book is designed.
Right.
So the book is broken up into 5 sections. There are 3 wilderness locations, broken up by 2 road trips that link all the pieces together.
The first wilderness section is Mount Sinai, right here on the map.
And then in the second section, they travel to a region called Paran.
A whole bunch of things happen here in the wilderness of Paran.
And then in this 4th section is Israel's road trip to Moab.
The book ends with a large section in the wilderness of Moab, right across the Jordan River from the Promised Land.
Now, through all of these sections, the storyline just flows like a gripping dramatic movie. Everything starts great, but then the trip goes horribly wrong, and it all ends with the final redemptive moment, the surprising act of God's grace.
So let's jump into this story. It all begins at the wilderness at Mount Sinai, and we've become really familiar with this mountain.
Yeah, if you remember, Israel came here after Egypt, and they formed a covenant with God here, got the 10 Commandments here, built the tabernacle here, and they've been at this mountain for 1 full year.
And now they take a census to number the people as they prepare to leave.
Right, and they're given these instructions for how to organize all those people in the camp. God's presence in the tabernacle, and then the tribe of Levi and the priests around it, and then the rest of the tribes around them. And this pattern, it's this visual symbol for how God's holiness is at the center of their existence as a people.
And they're told that when the cloud of God's presence moves, they're to pack up and travel with it.
Yeah, the Ark of the Covenant is carried by the Levites out in front, and then the tribe of Judah, and on and on. And this order is also a symbol for how God's holy presence is their leader and guide through the wilderness.
We begin the second section of the book with enthusiasm as they leave Mount Sinai and travel up to Paran. God's with them, everything's organized, This is going to be great.
But it's not great. After just 3 days on the road, the people are complaining about their hunger and thirst, and then even Moses' brother and sister start bad-mouthing him in front of all the people.
Not a great start. But now we're into the third section, the wilderness of Paran. This is where they send the 12 spies to scout out the promised land. 2 of those spies come back and they're really optimistic.
But the other 10 are freaked out, and they don't trust God, and they go around saying, we're going to get annihilated in there. And so they start a mutiny, and they try to appoint a new leader who's going to take all the people back to Egypt. And so basically, they are refusing to go into the promised land, and God honors their choice. He says that this generation is going to wander for 40 years and die in the wilderness, and only their kids will get to enter the promised land.
You know, this story here gets brought up many times in the Bible by different authors.
Yeah, and it always serves as a reminder that while God remains faithful to his people and his promises, he will honor their choices. He'll let them waste their whole lives if they choose to live in rebellion.
Okay, so the trip's been a disaster so far.
And it gets worse here in this fourth section as they're traveling to Moab. Even Moses has a moment of rebellion and is disqualified from entering the promised land. Then there's another rebellion among the people that results in this snake attack. And what makes all these rebellions even worse is that every step of the way, God has been providing. He's been offering forgiveness. He's been giving them food and water and this crazy stuff called manna.
Yeah, what is that stuff?
Yeah, no idea. But in spite of all this, they keep complaining, and they say that they wish they had died in slavery in Egypt.
If I was God, I would just give up on these guys.
You would think. But that's what makes this story in the final section so surprising. Israel has just arrived in Moab, and the king of Moab, he's freaked out that this huge group of people is traveling through his land. So he hires this pagan sorcerer named Balaam to pronounce curses on them.
This guy means business.
Yeah, and so Balaam, he says, okay, I'm going to pray to the Hebrew God, and let's see what happens. And 3 different times he attempts to curse them, but each time he finds that he can utter only blessing. Most surprising is the last blessing, where he prophesies that out of Israel will rise a victorious king. And this king is somehow going to be connected to God's promise to Abraham to bless all nations through this family. So here's Israel rebelling down in the camp, totally unaware that up in the hills, God is protecting and even blessing them.
The book ends here in Moab. Israel's getting ready to go into the promised land. They count up everyone again, just like at the beginning. They're leaving the old generation behind, including Moses.
But before they leave Moses, he gives them his last words of warning and wisdom. And that speech is what the next book, Deuteronomy, is all about.
Remember how we told you the book of Leviticus ended? Well, check out how the book of Numbers ends. These are the commands and the regulations the Lord gave through Moses to the Israelites on the plains of Moab by the Jordan across from Jericho. The book of Leviticus ends with these are the commands that God gave Moses on Mount Sinai for the Israelites. And God is not done seeking ways to connect with his people and to lead his people down a path of knowing him and living in his holiness. And so tomorrow night we jump into the book of Deuteronomy, which then means on Monday, because we have what? Sunday's coming, right? So on Sunday we have our worship service, and we do not have a devotional that evening. But then Monday I have another theme video that I want to share with you, and I'll tell you more about that tomorrow night. But no matter, pray that tonight you sleep under the care and protection that God provides. God bless.
Before I spoke a word, you were singing over me. You have been so good to me. Before I took a breath, you breathed your life in me. You have been so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming chases me down, finds till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God, yeah. Oh, the love of God. When I was your foe, still your love fought for me. You have been so, so good to me. When I felt no worth, you paid it all for me. You have been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, finds till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God, yeah. The reckless love of God. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, finds till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Ooh, no,